They pulled the trigger, and no one saw it coming. George Russell, the railroad king, the unshakable titan of New York industry, was finally winning again, until a bullet shattered everything. And I don't just mean the glass. Because the Gilded Age didn't just end episode 7 with a bang. It ended it with a message of power won't protect you anymore. Not from betrayal. Not from scandal. Not even from death. But who wanted George Russell dead? Who knew exactly when to strike? Just as his empire was rising from the ashes. And what if I told you, this wasn't about business at all, that this bullet wasn't aimed at his fortune, but at his family. Because everyone in that house is falling apart. And the real rot? It's not in the railroads. It's in the rooms they no longer speak in. I'm Harry, and welcome back to Bertha Point. Today we're cracking open the most explosive episode of the Gilded Age yet. And it's not just the gunfire you need to fear. It's the secrets. George Russell, Marian and Brook, Bertha, Larry, Peggy, Oscar. Every single one of them is spiraling. And some might not survive what's coming next. So if you're even remotely invested in this slow, burn train wreck of betrayal, revenge, and backstabbing silk gloves, hit that subscribe button right now. Because the truth, this finale is going to change everything. Now, let's rewind a little, because the shot that echoed through Fifth Avenue was only the loudest secret this episode dropped. GRGE Rest-CL Adid Manuel King. The king of industry finally fixed his empire. After episode of business collapse, Richard Clay's betrayal, and a terrifying lack of investors, Larry, yes Larry, came back from Morenci with a win. The Russell fortune, saved, back on, for about 11 minutes. Then, bang, we don't see the shooter. We don't even see if George survives. Which means one thing, this was personal. And I'm going to say something now that might rattle you. It wasn't about George's business. It was about George's silence. Who's been keeping the most secrets this season? Who's pulled every string behind closed doors? George. And people have noticed. So here's the theory: the bullet wasn't meant to kill George. It was meant to expose him. Think about it. What happens to Bertha without him? To Larry? To the money? Now ask yourself, who benefits from that chaos? Ward McAllister Mendo Choto Musi. If George kept too many secrets, Ward McAllister made the opposite mistake. He spilled everything. His book Society, as I have found, it didn't just ruffle feathers. It ripped the entire nest out of the tree. From being Bertha's right hand to being shunned in a single week, McAllister's fall was biblical. Why? Because in this world, the greatest sin is honesty. What was he thinking? Writing a tell all about the very people who let him sit at the table. Imagine going on a podcast and calling out your boss. Except your boss is the Queen of New York. And what's worse, Bertha won't even save him. She can't. And that's the scariest part of all. For all her power, Bertha Russell just learned she can't protect everyone. Which raises the question, if she can't save Ward, who will save Bertha? Because right now, she's losing everyone. Mariam Bureau AR Mindies Xilosti, SCR Hier, ICMPTY. I need to say this plainly: Marian Brook is sabotaging her own life. And before you jump in the comments to defend her, hear me out. Yes, she's been manipulated. Yes, she's trying to take control. But breaking off the engagement with Larry, without even listening to his explanation, that's not independence, that's fear. And when Jack Trotter tells her Larry is innocent, and she still won't budge, it stops being noble and becomes self-inflicted misery. Now, don't get me wrong, I get it. We've all had that moment where our pride tells us to walk away. But Marian, she's not walking away, she's locking herself in a cage made of etiquette, self-doubt, and heartbreak. And that cage, Bertha Russell helped build it. You didn't hear that. Let me say it again. Bertha Russell may be behind Marian and Larry's breakup. Larry thinks it, Marian suspects it, and I believe it. Bertha controls everything, even if it means ripping her own son's happiness apart. But let's keep going, because the next crack in this marble mansion, it's not romantic, it's familial. Bertha Russell finally got what she wanted. Status, power, recognition. So why is she completely alone? Her daughter married the Duke. Her son resents her. Her husband might be dead. And society, they don't love her, they fear her. But when fear turns into emptiness, what's left? You know what this reminds me of? The end of Game of Thrones, when Cersei realizes the throne she fought for means nothing without her family. Bertha Russell is not a villain. She's a warning. Because for all her ambition, she forgot one thing: you can't rule a house that doesn't love you. And right now, her empire is silent. We've always known Peggy's past was painful. But when Elizabeth Kirkland learns the truth about Peggy's baby, it's used like a weapon. Let me be blunt, Mrs. Kirkland was always going to be a problem. Colorist, classist, cruel. But now, she's trying to destroy Peggy for surviving. Think about how twisted that is. Peggy didn't hide her past. She carried it. And instead of being respected for her strength, she's punished for it. But here's what the Kirklands don't realize: Peggy's not alone anymore. She has allies. She has voice. And in a society this shallow, that's more dangerous than money. Oscar Vayanarshjan Lovi and La CNC Scar finally, Oscar. The one character who hides his truth behind smug smiles and perfect suits. But when John Adams dies, that mask cracks. We didn't get a funeral, but we got something better. We saw Oscar grieve, and in one of the most emotional scenes of the episode, Marian sits with him and tells him she knows about John, about Oscar, about all of it. And you know what? She doesn't flinch, because finally someone sees Oscar, not as a Van Rudgen, not as a joke, but as a man in mourning. And in a show about power, reputation, and performance, that moment of realness, it broke me.